Well, it's now just around the corner. The primary elections are beginning. America enters into the process of choosing the next president of the United States of America. Because of the incredible amount of political discord, many times we find ourselves with our heads whirling. What does each candidate really stand for? How does that mesh with where I think the United States of America should go? And of the people who say they stand for one thing, how many have voted opposite that previously, but now are simply taking a position for political expediency? These are some of the questions that surface at this time. Now, what we have done here at Politics and Religion, we decided it was time for us to analyze the position of each candidate so you can know. We're not endorsing any candidates here. We're simply going to take the major issues that pertain to Bible prophecy and to the moral values that America should embrace, and we're asking each candidate what their position on that particular issue is. Now, before we mention the name of any candidate, we want to tell you what some of the issues that we feel like are critical to the future of the United States of America. The first issue is same-sex marriage. Should DOMA be repealed, the Defense of Marriage Act? Should people be allowed to marry two men, marry two women, marry? And why does that matter to you or to me? Well, when you talk about moral issues, some people say as long as they don't bother me, then it doesn't affect us what anybody does. Well, that's not really true, because when you forsake biblical morality, you undermine the foundation of our government. We are a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and we're one nation under God. We depend on God for certain inalienable rights. Once you remove self-government from people and they quit governing themselves and become immoral, and if it feels good, do it. Once we adopt that philosophy, then it's only a matter of time until the United States of America will decay from within and collapse. Unless we have self-government, then we will have to be governed by a strong government that takes our freedom away. So this is not simply an issue of people's private lives. There are some things that affect the very core of our governmental system. You take them away, and our governmental system will inevitably go away. Some of our forefathers have said that our form of government will only work in a God-fearing Christian society. The people who designed this government were God-fearing Christian type of people by and large. Consequently, this government has been able to ascend to heights that no nation has ever ascended to before. These things are now in jeopardy because the very principles, the moral principles upon which this nation was founded, are now being swept away. Many people say it doesn't matter, it's none of your business. The fact is, the future of the United States of America depends on it. Okay, so same-sex marriage is one of the issues that we feel like are make or break issues where candidates are concerned. If we embrace sodomy, homosexuality, then we will receive the same sentence of judgment that Sodom and Gomorrah received when God destroyed them. God will destroy the United States if we give ourselves over to the sodomization of America. Secondly, should we or should we not abolish the Federal Reserve banking system? The Federal Reserve has controlled the American economy for 100 years now. Lately, they have been responsible for the absolute ruin of this economy, and it's not only affecting the United States, it's affecting the entire world. So, should the Federal Reserve be abolished? Now we're talking about a private entity here that the United States government was duped into yielding its power to up until 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. the coining of money and the setting of interest rates and the determining of the money supply was a function of the U.S. government. At that time, 1913, it was assigned to this private corporation called the Federal Reserve banking system, which, by the way, has private stockholders, and people have profited incredibly from it since its establishment. So should that be allowed to continue, or should the Fed be abolished? Do you favor or oppose a national ID? Do you believe every American should have to carry a national ID card or not? Do you believe in school choice? And when we talk about school choice, we mean that parents should be able to choose whether to send their kids to public school or private school. If they choose private school, then they would be given the money that would be spent on sending that child to a public school so that they can have genuine choice. A lot of people say, oh, they have choice now. However, they don't really, because unless they have the economic means, they are absolutely required to send their children to the public school. National health care for all. Do we believe in socialized medicine, or do we believe that that should be a private affair among the people and their doctor? Abortions. Do you believe in abortions in any case? If you're against abortion, are there exceptions? Another question we've asked of each of the candidates. Should the U.S. get out of the United Nations, and should the United States be a member of the International Criminal Court? Should they belong to those world government type of bodies? Finally, do you favor a balanced budget for the federal government? Should there be a law mandating that each federal budget must be balanced each year? Do you favor cap and trade legislation in any form? And then finally, we're going to ask your position on the nation of Israel. Should we continue to stand by and support the nation of Israel? Now, these are some of the issues. I'm not saying that we have hit every one, but these are issues that most Christians in particular are interested in, but not only Christians, but every American should be interested in these issues. The reason being, these are the issues on which this nation will rise or fall. Now, we have analyzed the position of all of the announced candidates as far as we know them. We may have left out some fringe candidates that are so obscure I don't know their names, but we're talking about Michelle Bachmann, Newt Gingrich, John Huntsman, Ron Paul, Rick Perry, Mitt Romney, and Rick Santorum, plus, of course, President Barack Obama. And we're going to analyze the position of each of these individuals. We're going to talk about them very candidly now. In the course of this conversation, if we state something that you do not agree with, that you feel like you have documentation, now I'm not just talking about wild opinion here, but I'm talking about documentation that we have misrepresented the stance of any of these candidates on any issue, please feel free to call us at 877 Endtime. Our purpose here is only to convey a true picture so that you know where these candidates stand. You should not be voting just on personality. You should be voting on these make or break issues. These are the issues that may never get rectified if the wrong candidate is elected come November of 2012, and that's where we're headed. But let me remind you that the first primary will be held in 6 days in Iowa. The next primary in New Hampshire 1 week later, several more primaries in January. So this is something that's coming at us very quickly. Most of the primaries will be completed by the end of March. There are a few that go later. Nevertheless, it's really critical that we be informed, because I am, in talking to people, I am finding that most people don't really have a clue what the big issues are. They're being victimized by the mainstream media that is using its propaganda powers to influence the thinking of people. They can make people look like an idiot. They can make people who are very conservative look like a liberal, which they're doing right now. They have the ability, the way they frame things, the way they comment on things. I was with some people recently that, I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and some of their commentary on the candidates, I am absolutely stunned because I realize they're still out there in never wonderland. They don't even have a clue what the real issues are or who stands for what. So we're devoting this program, and we may talk about it some more because it's so absolutely vital that we know exactly what's going on right now. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about where does Michelle Bachmann, Newt Gingrich, John Huntsman, Ron Paul, Rick Perry, Mitt Romney, Rick Santorum, and Barack Obama, where do they stand? And we're going to go ahead and get started in the short time we have before the break. Where do they stand concerning same-sex marriage? Michelle Bachmann, absolutely against same-sex marriage. Newt Gingrich says he's against same-sex marriage. John Huntsman says he's against same-sex marriage, but he supports civil unions and would respect gay marriage from other states. I have yet to understand how a person can say they're against same-sex marriage and be in favor of civil unions. I mean, you're either for it or you're against it. You're either for sodomy or you're against it. You're either for homosexuality or you're against it. But nevertheless, that's the position of John Huntsman. Ron Paul, he's against same-sex marriage, but says he would leave the definitions up to the individual states because of his strong advocacy of states' rights. He does not believe the federal government can play a role in that particular decision. Rick Perry, he's against same-sex marriage. Mitt Romney is against same-sex marriage. However, while he was the governor of Massachusetts, he actually signed the license of people that were married. So he says he's against it. Not really sure about that. Rick Santorum, he says that he is against same-sex marriage. And Barack Obama originally said he was against same-sex marriage, but for civil unions. However, he recently has ordered the Justice Department to no longer defend the Defense of Marriage Act because he believes it's unconstitutional, which means he believes it's wrong, and therefore he has come out so strong with so many statements, the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He has come out so strong for same-sex marriage, it's safe to say that he in fact favors same-sex marriage.